Welcome to the original International Teacher Podcast with hosts in 4 different time zones, Greg, Darian, Kent, JP, and Hannah, bringing you episodes from around the world about the best kept secret in education. You got it, international teaching. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to another episode of the International Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah, calling in from Iowa, my basement in Iowa, and it's cold, even though it's summer, because basements are always cold. Today we have JP Mint with us. Hi, JP.
Hey, hello from cool Mexico. I'm drinking a hot coffee today.
And we have Greg calling in from Saudi.
It's not cool here. It is. I saw a man burst into flames just about 5 minutes ago going by my apartment. Hi, everybody. I'm back, and I'm not on muscle relaxants today, so it's very normal.
And our special guest today is Blair Hoover calling in from a city in France that I can't pronounce.
It's not a city. It's not a city.
Not a city. Okay.
It's 600 people village. It's tiny.
That must be exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's your town, the little speck on the map? Where is it close to that our listeners would relate to?
If you've been to Southwest France, you may have heard of Carcassonne, or if you're a big board game player, you may have heard of Carcassonne. I'm about 40 minutes outside Carcassonne. But if you're not that familiar, you probably have heard of Toulouse and you've heard of Montpellier. And I'm right about halfway between the two of them.
Oh, that makes sense. Thank you. I don't know much. I only know about the southern France and along the Mediterranean.
Hannah, have you heard of Carcassonne? It's a great board game.
Yeah,
if you have
I have. Yeah. We own it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I live near there.
So Blair, everybody has a story. We usually lead by asking.
Blair is a former teacher.
Yeah, I was going to get to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we have a teacher on.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Okay. Can you give us your elevator pitch of what got you into education and got you here now? So can you tell us?
Yeah. So I was broke. I was
Welcome.
broke. I have a really good story about an onion. I graduated university with a degree in fine art. My specialty was oil painting. You cannot make a career that way. And I found out really quickly that I was poor after I
oil
graduated.
painting onions.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So I worked multiple part-time jobs. And one February, I was living in Asheville, North Carolina in the mountains. Beautiful area, but like very easy to be poor there because it's beautiful. It's a lovely place to be, but everybody wants to be there. So getting a job is very difficult. And so I worked all these, like one of my jobs was to bake the bread off at a bakery at 4 a.m. every morning. So one February, I was extra broke because if you've ever worked an hourly job, then you know that February is the worst month because there's only 28 days, but you still owe rent, and rent costs the same. It doesn't cost less just because you have 3 less work days that month. So it was the end of February. I was literally out of money. It was cold. But you can relate, Hannah. You're cold right now. I lived in a wood, I want to say it's a shack. It was a house that was not very well insulated. So it was very cold and drafty inside. I opened the cupboard to look at like what I could cook to get through until I would get paid again in a few days. And I realized that thankfully I had a bag of rice and I had a bag of masoor dal, or just red lentils. And so I could eat, but I didn't have any onions. And I was thinking this would taste so much better if I could just fry an onion to go with my dal, but I literally had no coins to rub together to buy that. So I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I need a guaranteed path to a career. And the only thing that I could think of at that time is if I become a teacher, if I get a teaching license, I'll probably always be able to get a job. It's not a very lucrative job. It's not a job that I really particularly wanted, but it felt like security to me at the time. So I'm from Georgia, and in Georgia, they had one of these lateral entry programs where you could get a master's degree and a teaching certification at the same time. So I was a little bit young compared to most of the people doing that program because I was only maybe 2 years out of university before I got to this conclusion. I went and I joined a program. I got my master's degree with certification. I taught my first 2 years my first 2 years in a really high needs school district. Like my first year when I started teaching, I was on a provisional license because I had done half of my teaching program, but not all of it yet. So that was our student teaching was actually being the teacher and just having to figure it out. And I was, I think, the fourth or fifth teacher in the classroom. I started at the end of September and they'd already gone through teachers. Like that's how difficult.
From 2 weeks September, they'd already gone through 4 or 5.
Well, they started in the end of August. So it had been about 3 or 4 weeks by the time I started, but it was like every week they got a new teacher, like a new long-term sub. Like they started with a full-on teacher that they had actually, my district was hiring immigrants. So they were giving, I think, B1 visas or something to bring people over to teach. And the first week, the immigrant that they had hired in was like, this is not going to work. I was a science teacher. And we had these big, big tables. Apparently the students had thrown the table at the teacher. So the teacher was like, I'm out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was intense. It was a very like baptism by fire, my first year teaching, which is excellent preparation for teaching in the local schools in the UAE or in Saudi or someplace like that. Because when you've dealt with lots of behavior issues before, you build skills. Now, I was a absolutely verifiably terrible teacher that first year. I was in survival mode.
So was I. Still am.
I think a lot of teachers are their first year, but I stuck it through and I ended up building better relationships with students because I volunteered with, this is a fun story and we're recording this just a few days after Juneteenth, so I think it's appropriate. I was in a school that was 99% free or reduced lunch, and almost all the students were African American in the school. Like there was a handful of kids that weren't. So even among the teaching staff, being white, you were in the minority there. So it was a really interesting experience, which international teachers experience being in the minority when you go to a country where you don't fit, right? But I volunteered to help with the STEP team. And if you know a lot about historically Black universities, you know that they have these amazing teams where they choreograph and they like clap and stomp. It's like Stomp, that movie. And they'll clap and stomp and they'll do these routines that are just phenomenal. So we had a teacher who was from the historically Black university in our town in Savannah, and she was the special needs teacher, and she had started a STEP team. She recruited these kids and they were rehearsing and they were really getting good. She got her sorority sisters to train them. But then we had a really bad principal, because if you've ever been at a bad school, you got a bad principal, right? Like it happens. So we had a terrible principal and he fired her because her mom was ill and she needed to take some time off to take care of her mom. And he was like, well, you're gone. She was like, but I can't leave these kids and I'll still train them even though I'm fired, but I can't do that. I need a teacher sponsor. So she asked me if I would step in and be the teacher sponsor. So here I am, this little white girl from Savannah who really knows very little about African-American culture, but I got baptized in it that summer because I went to our Savannah State University, our historically Black university, twice or 3 times a week. And I just sat in the corner and watched and cheered on these kids. I was just the school representative there, but it bought me a lot of rapport, right? With the kids. Like they knew that I actually cared about them. If you've ever worked as a white American teacher with African-American students, there's a lot of well-deserved distrust there. So because I had showed up for these kids, it helped me break through a bit. It didn't mean year 2 was easy. It was not, but I was not the worst teacher in the school in year 2 because I had done my time and I'd managed to show the kids that I actually did care and that the care that I was trying to show them wasn't fake. That is a lesson that applies in teaching everywhere. Like the kids need to know that you actually care.
And the kids are keen on that too. It's something you have to earn.
They pick up on fake care.
Oh,
They pick up on fake care.
But you did it. You lasted 2 years. Yeah.
I lasted 2 years. I had gone very briefly to a private school when I was in 9th and 10th grade. And that school was a really tiny, independent private school. A teacher was taking maternity leave. And I was like, oh my God, I can get out. I can breathe again. I'll go to this little private school. Of course, it's a big pay cut. But doing the maternity leave at the private school was awesome. I became a real teacher that year. The first 2 years, I learned how to survive and I learned how to connect with difficult students. I learned how to navigate impossible systems. The third year, I learned actually how to think about teaching and learning because I was in an environment where the kids' needs were met. Like these were wealthy kids. They didn't have to worry about food. They didn't have to worry about violence. So at that school, I actually got to learn how to be a teacher, right? But it was a maternity leave and there were no jobs. That was the 2008-2009 school year, which you may recall. There was this little thing called the Great Financial Crisis, the mortgage and housing crisis. And it was in 2008 is when it kind of hit. In 2009 is when all the funding for schools evaporated for the public schools. So there was literally not a single teacher, public school teacher job available in the entire state. And I was on a 1-year contract, and I had
and you had
no
just
way.
figured out how to teach, right? And if I may, the average teacher, new teacher, stays in education now between 3 and 5 years and then fades away. Average, right?
And I would say you really, at least from my experience, and I think this is true because I'm an entrepreneur now, right? You really don't get your feet under you until year 3. Like your first 2 years, the learning curve is so steep. Like there's so much you have to learn. We see this in the UAE where I taught for many years. A lot of the schools, they want new teachers because they can pay them less. And so the teachers are constantly turning over. The quality of what the kids get is a teacher in survival mode, right? The first 2 years, you're really learning how to be a teacher.
Baptism by fire. You're right.
Yeah.
And by 3, you figure it out. And then I would even say that by year 10 is when you've really started to, I mean, unless you're some absolute natural. And I think most of us, I had to work for like 10 years before I made a difference. I tell you that much for sure. Although it is in international, we do start and stop, at different countries depending on where you are. But tell us a little bit about what happened then. There were no jobs in Georgia.
No jobs. I had a mortgage at the time and no work. And I knew that I couldn't make enough to pay because I had a ton of student loans. I went to university and graduate school on loans and grants. So I had tons of debt. I knew there was no way that I was going to survive if I had to wait tables again or go work in another bakery or pick up I did construction work for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like there's no way I could make ends meet. I needed a teacher salary in order to make our budget work. So I spent the summer studying French, JP, and on one of these websites, I can't even remember the name of it, but it was a correspondence website at that time where you could chat with someone who wanted to learn English and they would teach you. In my case, it was French. So I was learning French from this college student in Morocco and he was learning English from me. So he was much better in English, of course, than my French was, but he was very kind. In our conversations, one of the things that I told him how I was in between jobs. I was a teacher and there were no jobs and I didn't know what I was going to do. And he was like, oh, just come here. They're always hiring English teachers here. And I was like, oh, I never considered, never even thought about looking outside the country for a job. So then I started perusing job boards and I came across this call for teachers. This was 2009. And this is when the UAE public schools or the Abu Dhabi public schools opened up positions for international teachers to come and teach in the local schools. The contract was good. They would pay, my housing would be completely paid for. They'd pay my flights and my health insurance. And my salary was actually as much or a little bit more than I was already making. But then when you add
free, I would imagine.
Free, and you add housing and insurance on top of that, right?
I'm having these memories of Darian. I wish he was here. Our other co-host.
I know. I'm thinking Darian as well.
Darian went over to Abu Dhabi, I believe, and it was with like 2,000 other people.
Yeah.
Right? They brought up. Is this what you did too?
Yeah. So
did
I landed
a very large teddy bear African American guy with more energy than you could ever believe.
I don't think I met him. I met him.
You would remember
we probably
Darian.
know the same people because there were only about that first year, there was about 2,000 teachers that came over, but we came over in waves. I think I was wave 3, if I remember correctly. And there were about maybe 50 or 60 teachers that came all at the same time. It might not
even have been. You got hooked on that package. Yeah, you got hooked on the package that they were sending out.
Yeah, we got a good package, but it was very much unknown and it was very scary. At that time, no one knew where Abu Dhabi was. Some people had heard of Dubai, but there was like no one there. And I say no one, the city was just so much smaller and there were oil and gas people. And then all of a sudden in a handful, there was an international American school and an international British school and an international French school. So a handful of teachers that taught at those schools. but we're talking like the number of like younger teachers that spoke English that flooded into the city. The population of people kind of like us, people in their 20s and 30s, coming to teach, like that population like boomed. Like it made a big difference in the economy there and the way things functioned there, because before, most of the teachers were much older. They'd already been there for 20 years. Like when the public school system branched out, they hired a bunch of teachers from various Arab countries. And so the teachers, a lot of them had been teaching in UAE for 20 years already. And so the average age of teachers was like 50 or even closer to 60. And then all of these 20 and 30 something teachers like flooded into the schools.
Party
and
time.
We don't speak Arabic and we're not Muslim. It just like changed so much so quickly. It was wild.
All you needed was a crock pot. That's what Darian would say. Darian left his family and went there to test it out. And all he had was like, he got on a bus with a bunch of people. I wish he was here to tell the story, but listeners have heard his story already.
Amazing.
It's exciting to hear that you went to this. Was that your first major travel, or that you just made that leap? Really?
I had gone on a 1-week trip to the Bahamas a few years earlier with my partner at the time, with his family. And that's the only reason I had a passport, was because I'd gone on this trip to the Bahamas, which, it's right next to the US. It's about as close as you can get.
Wow.
So this was my first, and I'd only lived in Georgia and North Carolina. Like I had not gone far from home at all. So this was a big, huge adventure.
What were some of the signs that you were no longer back in Kansas, as we would say?
Oh, I love this one.
I
love this question. So like there's so much different. But the thing that I felt was the thing that like was hardest for me to accept, that is easy to talk about, was that when you went into little tiny restaurants on the street, and Greg, you'll recognize this. You didn't get napkins, you got Kleenex on the tables, and like not like a big fancy, like you go to McDonald's, you're going to get the McDonald's napkins. But if you're going to like a local restaurant or a little street level restaurant, you're going to get that. You're going to get a box of tissues, right? And you're also going to see a box of tissues is going to be in every taxi that you drive in. Like if you meet any local people, they'll have a box of tissues there. If you get invited to someone's house, there'll be a box of tissue. Like the way Americans use paper towels is the way that Emiratis use Kleenex. And that was just such a weird thing for me. And it's such a small thing, but I think it really represents just how different the approach is.
Sometimes the bathrooms too. They don't have a roll of toilet, if they have any paper at all. If it was a sit-down toilet, in years back, even now in some place in our airport here, it's like a little tissue dispenser, and it's like a half-sized Kleenex. You're like, what is that?
Yeah, and I fell in love with the bum sprayers, the bum guns. Yeah. Fell in love, loved them. Like France used to do bidets, right? But they don't. Like France is just an only paper country, and I just miss my bum gun so much. I think I was at a point in my life where I was 28. I was still very open to change, and I was still growing and discovering who I was as a person. And I'd been through a lot of stress, a lot of challenge in my 20s, and so I embraced so much of Emirati culture. And I ended up staying for almost 17 years.
What?
Wow.
You stayed for 17 years.
Wow.
In the same 16. Schools too? Were you in the public schools?
I swapped around schools. So my first school was really in the middle of nowhere, like on the edge of the Rub al Khali, which you'll know, Greg, the empty quarter. My school was right on the edge of that. So when I left my apartment, there were only, I think, 5 Western English-speaking teachers in the village that I lived in. It was very isolated. And it was about an hour and a half from Abu Dhabi city, but an hour and a half through sand, right? Like just sand for an hour and a half. Then you're there. I mean, there were roads, but when I walked out of my apartment building that first year, it only took about 5 minutes to walk into big orange sand dunes. And one time my neighbor and I were walking, she was Canadian. And as we're walking by this little camel farm that's not that far. We might have been 15 minutes walk from our apartment building. And there was an elderly Emirati woman in abaya, big black robe. And she had the burqa, which is it looks like metal, but it's actually cloth that's been polished to look like gold. So sort of a mask over her face that's very typical of the region. And she motioned to us. And of course, she doesn't speak English, and we speak, I'm sure her Arabic is very Khaliji and not even like, the handful of Fusa words that I know. So she waved us over, and she was milking her camel, and she took a silver, like a metal stainless steel bowl. She took her abaya. She grabbed the bottom of her abaya. She wiped it out, and she squirted fresh camel milk into the bowl, and she offered it to us. And so, of course, we had to drink it.
Of course, right? I've done that deed. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now they sell camel milk in the stores.
They do. And funny story, when my daughter was born, we decided that when we weaned her, we were going to wean her onto camel milk. So she would always have a story to tell. So when she was 1 and 2 years old, she drank camel milk.
And you named her Camel Milk.
No.
I'm just joking. Totally joking. We'll call her Camel Milk just for the hair.
Yeah, sure.
Anonymity.
But
wow.
it was really an adventure. And it was really like, now if you take a position in Abu Dhabi, even that village that I was in, like it has a Starbucks now, right? Like it is like, it's just like a town, like a suburb now.
They're competing with the other UAEs. They're competing with, Dubai has changed a lot. Saudi's changing. Bahrain, the first time I ever went there in 2004 was this one level, like maybe the 2-story building was the highest.
Yeah.
Abu Dhabi, very similar. And Abu Dhabi is one of those countries that's a little bit more forgiving for non-Muslim, right? And for culture.
Yeah,
it's a
very
little bit
tolerant.
less stringent. And tolerance is the word I was looking for. It was so different to go there. Question though, did you move on into international schools or did you stay in
So I was in that remote
sector?
school, in that really remote school the first year. And I had requested a change to go into the city so that I could have a social life, basically.
Absolutely.
Because me and one other teacher, we were the only really young ones. Everyone else was either married or they were near retirement. It was sort of posted out in this remote place. So I requested a transfer to the city, but they didn't give it to me. So I arrived back in the country with an email saying, oh, your new school is here. And I got moved like over the summer. They changed their mind and they just moved me. So I got moved into a public school in the city. I stayed 2 years there. And then I decided if I wanted to really have a teaching career, I was teaching English, basically ESL. It wasn't called ESL, but it was basically ESL. I decided I needed to get back to teaching science if I wanted to actually have a career. It's more interesting to me. So I found it was called Sheikh Zayed Private Academy. It's a tiny school at that time, was only a girls' school. And it was founded by one of the sheikhs. And I can't remember. I think she might be a daughter of Zayed, Sheikh Zayed. I think like something like that. But very high royal family founded it because she wanted a school for the royal family daughters to go to. It was kind of a little bit like a finishing school. It wasn't really international. It was almost exclusively Emirati. It did have a handful of international kids, but it was tiny. It was lovely. It was such a wonderful community. And I taught there for 2 years. But then, this is what's exciting. My new partner, who's now my husband, he said, around the time that I moved to this private school that was like a local private school, he said, what if we just saved up some money and took a year off to travel? And I was like, what? You can do that? Like, it's possible to save enough money so that we could actually not work for a year and be okay.
Is he German or is he Danish or Dutch or what?
He's Canadian. The best people are all Canadian. Yeah.
Darn Canadians travel.
Yeah, but his parents are immigrants. So they immigrated. They're from the UK originally, but they had lived internationally their whole lives. So they're really expats already, kind of. He came from a family where travel was just built in to it. So that wasn't as a weird of a concept to him. And also with a UK background, the idea of a gap year kind of exists.
So
already.
you went.
So we did.
Did you guys save up and go? Yeah.
So I made the stupid decision to not rent an apartment that year. And I instead commuted from his apartment in Dubai to my school in Abu Dhabi, which was terrible. Do not recommend. 1.5-hour commute is not the way. Don't do that.
1.5 one way, or no,
Yeah.
45 minutes one way.
No. 1.5 each
1.5
direction.
one way. Oof.
Yeah, one each direction, right? And it was difficult.
A lot of desert.
I slept on people's couches in Abu Dhabi quite a lot to avoid the commute. But we were able to save up over half of our income that year. Basically, I stopped buying anything. I didn't buy anything. I didn't go out. If I went out with friends, I would get like a soda water or something, like, so I wouldn't have
And
to
you
spend
ate
money.
onions. Yeah.
And I love onions.
Yeah.
And Indian food is so cheap. Falafel, shawarma, Indian food, so cheap in Abu Dhabi. You can live, like, that's one of the things that's magic about the UAE. You can do the Dubai lifestyle flash and walk away with nothing. Or you can go in and you can live like a lot of the manual laborers or the sort of low level administrative people who make nothing. They make very little. They might make $1,000 a month, right? Some of these people make less than that. If you choose to slot yourself in and live a lifestyle more like they do, you can save. Like, in the end, we ended up saving something like 65-70% of our income later on in our careers. Yeah. But saving up for that year of travel was kind of the tipping point, because I'd paid off all my loans at this point. I'd been in the UAE a couple of years, paid off my loans. Money was piling up, didn't know what to do with it. Decided to take this year off to travel, read up on all the backpacking stuff, like how to travel ultralight. I had a 5-kilogram backpack that we traveled the world for a year with.
Wow.
We saved up about $30,000 each to do our year of travel. And we planned to fly to Madagascar, Ethiopia, Guatemala, and sort of the Yucatan area, then to go to Hong Kong and stop over in France, then to Hong Kong. So we had kind of like 5 sort of like areas we were going to.
Those are like your waypoints, and you were going to travel around those, maybe. Okay.
And around in those kind of areas, right? Over the course of that year, we were so frugal. We had gotten so used to living like the locals that we actually didn't spend all of our money. We actually came home with savings, which was like shocking to me. But like when you go a completely non-commercial, a completely non-consumerist lifestyle, like you see things like just differently. And when I visited my parents at Christmas time, I was like disgusted by America. I was disgusted by the number of bottles of shampoo in the shower. Like, it was just like, it seemed so excessive.
How many shoes people have. And there's a lot of things that you whittle down, and you go back and you see the abundance and what we as Americans traditionally just have hordes of. Right?
That's it. And we had got stuck in Madagascar because we just loved it too much. We ended up skipping Ethiopia and spending 5.5 months in Madagascar. Madagascar is a very poor country. We were traveling by foot at times in what they call camion brousse, so these big trucks that like you sit on top of rice sacks with all the people. Like, we were traveling very local. We were living very local and traveling very local while we were there. We had just been around a lot of people who were living on subsistence rice farming. We'd spent a lot of time with people that lived that way. And so then to go straight back into the sort of, middle class, working class family that I grew up in.
Middle class America is very rich everywhere else. So,
and my parents were always a little bit on the poor side, right? Like, they were struggle with money, which is why I had to pay my way through school and everything myself. But even then, like, even our relatively below median income family, right? It was just so excessive compared to where we had been. So it was
there's a difference between the world outside of America and the West, countries like Western Europe. There's poor, and then there's world poor, which I think you saw in your travels, and especially if you're traveling local and you're not doing all the Western things. You're off the beaten path. You're not staying at the
resorts.
You're not a tourist. You're a traveler. Both you and your husband were travelers during that time.
Absolutely.
And then you go back and people are complaining about the wrong shampoo and buying a month worth of groceries at Walmart or something like that, or a grocery store. It's sort of strange to you. It must have been weird to go back, but it opened your eyes, didn't it?
Reverse culture shock.
Completely.
And it's also very overwhelming. I mean, even as someone who's, I'm not a huge consumer, but like living that international teacher lifestyle, having all the choices when I walk back into the States it's a huge cereal aisle, right? And I'm like,
the cereal and the toilet paper aisle really got me. Matt, the other co-founder of this podcast, Matt, the family guy, and I talked early on about going back during 2013 and 2012 in Venezuela. There was no toilet paper. And we went back, and I would just stand in a grocery store aisle and surrounded by toilet paper and cereal aisle. It's so crazy. Yeah. And now living here in Saudi, I go back I don't know what you do, Blair, but when I go back to the States now, I might go and spend like 25 minutes at a gas station that has a walk-in cooler with all the beer. I usually walk in
Just
and
look
grab
at it.
some bacon and then walk in and I'm just looking at all the beer and alcohol around me with a pound of bacon in my hand. And
Yeah.
you know, it's very normal for someone to come up and go, Greg, excuse me, sir, what the hell are you doing in our cooler? Can I help
Just
you find
basking.
something? But when you travel like you and your husband did at the
Yeah.
time, it's an eye opener. And you did it for a
Completely.
whole year, you said.
Yeah, a whole year.
JP, have you gone on a year travel yet?
No, I mean
The
3
world travel
months
gap
Canada,
year?
like or 2 weeks, 2 months, the summer times.
Yeah.
Like my biggest trip was the 32 states that I did in 2 months.
Wow.
In my RV. That was a big, I can't remember how many miles, because I wanted to see a lot of people that I had met over the years, teaching in places. And so I just would put them a point on a Google map, and then I made lines, and I was like, okay, it's basically the perimeter of the US. So I didn't get to the states that are kind of in the middle.
Well,
Like
that's a
Iowa.
whole other world of travel right
I
there
did hit
in the
Iowa.
U.S. I'm supposed to do that at age 60 with my buddy. We're supposed to go and do the 50 state tour, or maybe the
Wow.
48. I want to do Alaska, but maybe I'll get 49. Anyway,
Yeah.
what about, and Hannah, have you done this trip? I know you have small kids and a new family. So have you done a world tour?
We haven't done a world tour. I would say, though, the closest that we've done is backpacking Russia. We spent, I think, 2.5 weeks going from, I think, is it St. Petersburg or Moscow, and taking the Trans-Siberian Railroad all the way down and crossing the border into Mongolia. I think I've shared this story before. I'm not sure. We found out that I was pregnant like a few weeks before doing that trip. So I was like, backpacking pregnant with my first child back in 2019. And we would spend like 24 hours on the train from time to time, and get to see the beautiful Russian scenery. But then the buddy that we were traveling with, he was like, I want to stay as cheap as possible, and I want to spend as little as possible on food. There were several times throughout our journey where I was like, I need better food because I'm pregnant.
Nutrition is important to me.
Yeah, and sleep and rest and oh man.
Wow, whole
So
year though,
then-
you guys went out.
So from Madagascar, 5 months, where did you go off to then?
See if I remember correctly. Then I think at that point it was Christmas. And so my partner went to France where his parents had retired, and I went to the US. And then we met up in Guatemala, and we did sort of a Yucatan Peninsula. I had some friends that were doing a trip. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. I went to France. I met him in France. Then we went to the Yucatan, Guatemala. Then eventually we went to Hong Kong. And the plan was to get jobs in Hong Kong, and to stay in Hong Kong, and to make that our next place. He got a job. I did not. He was a graphic designer, and he was able to find a position, but I couldn't. I had a big ego, and I thought I should be getting.
You can't draw.
I could get a good position. I didn't want to go into a local school and be the ESL teacher. I wanted to be a science teacher, or I wanted to be a middle leader because I had already done some middle leadership. I want to be at an international school. And those jobs, Hong Kong is more competitive, and no one was biting. I ended up going back to the UAE. And so we stayed apart for a little bit, and I went back to a not very good school in UAE because there's always not very good schools hiring because they fire people a lot. So it's a good backup plan. You just go to a crappy school.
There's a reason.
But we've also talked about this before in other podcasts, is it's going back to a place that you've already taught.
Yeah.
There's no honeymoon period. Your expectations are higher. I see both of them nodding. All three of you nodding.
Hannah went back to Kuwait.
Yeah. I taught in Kuwait for 3 years, and then we left during COVID, and we went back in 2022 and stayed for 3 years. And there's no honeymoon period. I can.
But there's a great baby story in there sometimes, Blair. You need to go back. We always
Episode
revisit
99.
this story.
Episode
Okay.
99.
I'll go listen to it after this.
So when you did go back to UAE, was it something like putting on a good pair of pajamas? Like, okay, I know this
Well, I had
place.
tons of friends because I had already
Yeah.
been there. I think we'd already been there like 5 years or something when we left in it was 2015 and I had gone in 2009. So I'd already been in UAE for 5 years. I had a good community. I knew lots of people. There was a lot like good things about UAE. Like I love UAE, but the school was crappy. And I felt like so defeated that my dream to go up the ladder as a teacher did not work. And also my dream to go someplace new did not work. And so I ended up in therapy trying to like figure out like just feeling so depressed and so sad and so defeated.
Well, and your partner is in Hong Kong as well. So
yeah,
there's that as well.
He only stayed for 3 months. He stayed for 3 months and then he got a job in Abu Dhabi. So he did come back. But it was psychologically, it was difficult. It was like, I think going back sometimes can be that, whether it's back to your home country or back to a place you've been before, because going back to Abu Dhabi was very much like plan C. It was definitely not plan A. So it didn't feel great, but eventually I came to peace with it. And I had tried really hard after my 2-year contract. I was trying to get into one of the like tier 1 schools, like the American Community School or Raha International School. And I'd applied. Raha didn't talk to me, but the American Community School is like, yeah, actually we have 3 science teacher positions coming open. Maybe we can get you. They hired a new principal of secondary and a new principal of primary who both had spouses who were science teachers. Then a science teacher whose husband still worked there, but she had gone on maternity leave, decided that she was ready to come back. So then all the positions went away. And I was like, ugh. I made peace with staying at my really not nice school. And I decided actually, even though there's lots of ways you could be stressed, you don't have to be stressed because they're going to fire you eventually anyway, because that's the kind of school it is. So there's really no point in really stressing over the things they're asking you about. You can really shut the door at 3:30 and kind of not think about it if you have boundaries. So I just decided I'm going to have better boundaries. I'm going to shut the door at 3:30 and not think about it.
Positive.
Oh yeah. Well, that therapy helped.
Therapy.
Because it was behaviorally a very difficult school, like very difficult student management and administration that is very financially focused and results focused and does not care about you as a person at all.
I just have to say it wasn't the right fit.
No, it was not the right fit. But I had a good community there. Like the teachers I worked with were wonderful people and we loved to sit in the lounge during our off time and drink tea and talk. It was actually really lovely. So I chose to focus on the things that were really good. And then in maybe January or February, after I'd already been rejected by these 2 schools, because the tier 1 schools often they hire kind of in December and early January. So it was like the end of January. I was like, okay, it's over. I'm not going to get a job. It might have been early February and Raha called me. They were like, come for an interview. So I went over for an interview and I'd already decided to stay at my crappy school. I walked in. This is the first time in my life I'd done this. I interviewed them. I was like, is it going to be worth it for me to leave where I already have friends, where I already have a pretty chill life? I figured out the system. I know how to make it work. And I went in and I decided that it was in fact worth it.
And they were going to offer you the expat package, not a local.
Yeah. And I negotiated that because I was not married yet. And if you're not married, you can get the expat package. But if your spouse has a contract, they won't let you. Well, when they hired me, I was not yet married, but I was about to get married. So I really drove hard with the HR saying, I need my housing. My husband does not receive housing, which was true. He received a salary with no separate benefits. I had to negotiate on that. This was the first job that I went into where I was really coming from a position of power. Every other job I'd ever gotten was desperation, right?
Did they question the fact that they were hiring you in country? Because that's another little caveat that I always warn against, because a lot of international schools will be like, I can't hire you at an expat salary because
they will say
recruiting you here,
yeah.
right?
And that's
but
where
you went
I had
in there
to,
and said, I'm doing it. Okay.
And they really wanted me. They were right. By that point, I was a very good teacher, like really good.
You knew it.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I actually had a mom find me on LinkedIn randomly and tell me a story about how I had told her, this was at the new campus of Raha that had opened several years later, where she said, she was talking about her daughter who was very gifted academically, but very like shy. And she said, oh, I know academically she's fine. And everyone's always telling me she needs to open up and be more social. And I was like, she doesn't need to do that. Like, let her be her and let her be herself and she'll find her people. She's not going to resonate with everyone. It was a conversation like that where I was like, you know what? You don't need to change her. You can accept her as she is, and she's already enough. That mom came back to me like 5 years later. This girl's graduating, I think, this year. And so like, I'm a good enough teacher where people come back and find me 5 years later to tell me about
That's
a
all
conversation.
You need.
Right?
That's what I need once every 5 years. I need to hear something positive from somebody, because I teach elementary.
Yeah.
And you don't hear from them.
No,
but
because the kids
parents,
are too little.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
Good for you. And how long did you stay at that school then?
So I stayed at Raha too long. You know, have you ever stayed at a school too long?
I'm still here.
Too long.
I'm leaving this soon, but I'm still here. 10 years.
So I had a baby in 2019. My baby was born, and then we went straight into COVID. The stress of coming back as a new mother. I also had a line manager. The school as a whole was very warm and welcoming, but my line manager had a chip on her shoulder about mothers, and she resented maternity leave. She resented education allowances, and she was very vocal about that. While before I had a kid, she had taken me under her wing and was trying to cultivate me to be the next head of science department and all of these things. As soon as I came back from my maternity leave, she sabotaged me in every way that she could. I was away for 3 months. She had the substitute. She told the substitute, do not mark any papers for 3 months. My students got no feedback. Wow. When I arrived back, postpartum, still bleeding, right? Like still bleeding after postpartum, like barely holding my crap together, not sleeping at night, nursing a newborn in the middle of the night. I walked into 3 months worth of papers to grade.
And I need these next week.
Yeah. So I went to the principal and I said, like, I can't do this. I cannot grade all of this outside of school hours. Like it's 3 months worth of grading that I have to do. And so what the principal was lovely. The principal gave me 3 days where she kept the sub on for 3 days. And I went into a room and just graded papers for 3 days straight to get caught up on it. But like, that's how bad my line manager was. And that's like something I do want to mention, because as a mom, like I really did not face any blatant gender discrimination as a teacher. I mean, it exists because you see it. The number of teachers that are female compared to the number of leaders that are female, like there is gender discrimination. But I never really felt it until I was a mom. And then it was like thrown in my face. Sometimes younger women don't see gender discrimination. They don't think it's that big of a deal. But when you become a mom, you start to really experience it. But anyway, so I stayed, even though this line manager was awful to me, and I should not have stayed. I was barely holding on. Like becoming a mom was a really difficult transition for me. I was an older mom. I was 37 when my daughter was born. So I was really not doing well mentally, but I stayed. And then we opened a new campus and I thought, I'll go to the new campus and I'll be one of the teachers at the new campus. I'll get away from this line manager. That's awful. Well, then in the brilliant ideas that this school leadership had, they didn't hire any new leadership for the secondary school of the new campus. And they made our new campus under the secondary leadership of the old campus. So I maintained with my line manager on a different campus. This is an IB program, teaching kids that were in the IB program since they were in kindergarten, whereas I had kids in 8th grade who were just coming in and had never done IB ever before. I had to teach them from scratch. And somehow I'm supposed to do exactly the same things with them that these kids that have been in IB forever. Like it just didn't work. And it really broke me. And I hit like really hard burnout that year. And I ended up quitting, leaving in shame. I stayed too long. I should have left sooner.
All right, let's take a moment for a little commercial about how to get in touch with us. You can, of course, find all 4 of us at the itpexpat.com. That's www.itpexpat.com.
Or you could also find us at email at internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Or if you're into Facebook, we have a Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/ITPexpat, where you can find all kinds of inside information about ITP Expat.
You can also find us on Instagram at International Teacher Podcast, at our handle.
All right. And thank you, listeners. We have over 100 countries represented by our listeners. And though we're not monetized, we are here for you. And we would like to thank all of you for listening. So let's get back to the show.
Here's the thing. After we came back from our year of travel, my husband and I discovered the FIRE movement. And we discovered the FIRE movement because we got involved. I had bought one of these offshore savings plans, which is effectively a scam. And I ended up losing a lot of money because remember, we had gotten really good at saving. I had extra cash laying around. I wanted to invest it. I ended up losing a lot of money when the market should have been going up. It was going down because of all the fees. It was really bad. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the whole internet. I'm gonna learn how to invest myself. So I read the Boggleheads.
And FIRE being
Financial Independence, Retire Early. So I read Mr. Money Mustache's blog. I read Andrew Hallam's book, Millionaire Teacher. I read the entire Boggleheads forum. There was very little information about expat investing at that point. And I started volunteering with a group in the UAE, which I want to shout out to. It's called Simplify, the word simply, FI. And we have a huge Facebook group that is free and open to anyone, anywhere around the world. We give out free investment and financial advice to expats all over the world, but mostly based in UAE and the GCC. It's a fantastic resource. And it's completely, like this podcast, completely community run, right? It's run by volunteers. So you get really high quality support with no other agenda behind it. So I started volunteering with that group too, when it was a lot smaller. Like I used to have meetings in my living room to help people learn about personal finance. So we learned about financial independence, retire early, which is a big movement in the US where you basically save a high percentage of your income and you invest it in low cost index funds. And this creates a portfolio that it effectively creates a pension fund. So you can effectively retire much, much earlier. If you can save 65% of your income and invest it. So if you're in a place like Saudi or maybe Kuwait or Doha, a place where you can have a really high savings rate, if you can save and invest 65% of your income, you can be financially free and never have to work again after 10 years. So that's what my husband and I did. We learned about this around 2015, 2016. We started really investing 2016, 2017. 2024, we hit our FI number and we are now work optional. So that's why we moved to France, right? But when I was having this breakdown, we weren't there yet. And we had been working so hard. We'd been saving 70% of our income. And the idea of stepping away from work, because I made about 45% of our income and my husband made the other of that 55. And so it really cut away our ability to save. And so it pushed that goal further out. We thought that we would get there like 2022, 2023, but because I ended up quitting my job, we actually didn't get there till 2024, which is still not bad at all. Still very fast. Yes, Greg?
Hi, longtime listener. Listen, I was wondering, that's my joke I keep using from back in the day. My question goes back to, first of all, clarification. Yeah. FI, you get your FI number?
Yeah, FI number, financial independence number.
And how do you define financial independence?
Okay, financial independence in this case, because there's many definitions. In this case, it means you no longer need to work for money. You have enough income from your investments to fund your lifestyle forever.
God, I hope I hit that number because I'm about to go into a whole year of no employment. Retirement. I didn't tell you, I'm moving back to be with my dad for a year. Yeah, and I had to ask my dad. I was like, Dad, can I move back in with you? A 57-year-old guy asking Dad to move back in. It was for other reasons, not financial. I'm just hoping because I'm not a finance guy. That's why I had to ask you what FI means. Even after talking to Andrew Hallam or Mark Zorel, I'm still not a finance guy. I would rather go have open heart surgery than go over a financial plan.
I understand. There's a lot of avoidance.
I literally would do almost anything except going over financial plans. But anyway, that was my clarification. Yeah. And this is a group. So can we just get into the very basics of this? The group that you work for, is it the something?
Simplify. I don't work for them. I volunteer with them.
You did. You worked with them. You volunteered with them.
Yeah.
Is that a starting point for some of our listeners that are especially younger?
It's a great place. So here's the thing that I want to say, and this is a message I really want international teachers to hear, If you teach in your home country, like if you're American and you teach in the US, you are going to have a teacher's pension, like a 403B, or you're going to have like a defined benefit state pension, and you're also going to have Social Security. If you spend your teaching career abroad, most schools have no retirement program at all. And the ones that do, you're probably not going to be there for 20 years. You're going to be skipping around to different schools. So you can end up with absolutely nothing. When you get to 50, 60, 70, by the time you're 60, it's really hard to get international teaching jobs. You're also tired, right? You don't necessarily want to keep teaching in your 60s. What's the plan then? Because I want to tell a story now. My in-laws are lifelong expats, right? And my father-in-law ran a business, a moving company around Africa. It's called Worldwide Movers Africa. They used to do the moving for like people that worked at embassies and stuff. And so they would be the local, like on the ground movers in various countries there. Anyway, in this business venture, he had a partner at one point whose retirement plan was that he was going to run a tour company in Egypt. So he worked for a long time in the Worldwide Movers. And then his plan, he sort of sold out his shares. He moved to Egypt, and he had a partner in Egypt, an Egyptian partner who handled the sort of Egyptian side. He was the Anglo facing, like get the clients in side. Running that business was his retirement plan until he got ill and he could no longer run the business. And he has nothing, like literally nothing. My father-in-law pays his rent. His old business partner brings food to him so that he can eat. Like he doesn't even have money to renew his passport. Like that is how dire it can be if you don't make a plan. And planning to keep working is not a plan, right? Like you need a plan for financial security for the long term. And like you said, Greg, a lot of people are afraid of it. Now, I want to be really honest here. Everything you need to know is available for free online. You can start by reading Andrew Hallam's book. You can start by joining the Simplify Facebook group. You can read the Boggleheads forum. Like what you need to know is freely available, but we're teachers, right? And we know that giving a kid a textbook doesn't do anything, right? For some people, they'll pick up the textbook and they'll teach themselves. So that DIY really works. For other people, like it's too scary and they don't get started. So that was sort of the inspiration behind my side hustle, which I started after I burned out and left teaching. I started this side hustle of financial coaching. What I do is I help people who would be DIYers, but they just can't look. It's too scary. Or they've looked, but they're just not sure. Or they've read, but they need clarification. So I'm effectively still a teacher, but I tutor individually adults to figure out a plan for their personal finances. So that's my project that I'm doing now. I want to put that out there also. If there are people that don't know how to get started, that are worried, that like I do free intro calls for anyone that wants to. My website is cyofinance.com. The free intro call.
Your own finance. I like it because it's like those choose your own adventure books where it's
that's
like,
my
turn
inspiration.
to page 30. Turn to page 16.
What are you, a bunch of teachers or something?
Choose your own finance.
Blair, what I love about this is that you have already proven to a listener, to somebody that's listening to the show, you've already proven yourself because we've heard your story, which started out where you didn't have a pot to piss in. You didn't have food. You didn't have an onion.
I didn't
so
have an
much.
onion.
You had an onion and you didn't have it later on when you really wanted the onion, but you have successfully reached your financial independence where we don't, which is defined as not having to work and having a future,
having an income,
not worrying about where your onion's going to come from. Right.
Yes.
And that's phenomenal because you've already proven it with your own experience. You're not just somebody that's wealthy and saying, I've got this great idea. Here's how you get 1 million followers and here's how you make $1 million. You've actually done that. I'm inspired because I'm not a financial person. I would rather hand over my money to somebody to plan for me and learn from. And that's what the inspiration for me is, right? And I'm glad we went over your story first.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about financial advice is you can hand your money over to a financial advisor. But as an expat, most financial advisors will not talk to you until you have $1 million already.
Or you'll
And
go with
most-
Generali or something, which I've talked
are the
about
worst.
before, and
They're
it
the
was a big
worst.
scam. Like
That's where I lost my
I
money.
lost money. You did too,
Yep,
yeah.
that's where I lost my money.
totally fell in love with
Yep.
the guy that was selling it.
I know.
mean, David
They're
was
so nice,
great.
aren't they? And they buy you coffee.
They have you over for dinner. You don't know anything about it.
Yep.
And they're like, just save start with $200 a month, give it to us, and we'll save it. It's going to grow and grow, and then you're going to be making millions because you don't have a pension in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I fell for that Generali.
Right.
Then I just stopped paying into it and figured, I just gave him some money and I've lost it. I was with him for 1 year and then I left the country.
Good.
But he actually came to visit me. He came to visit me in the next 2 countries I was in because he's such a great guy.
That's how much money he makes off of you.
He made a lot of money off of me now that I know it. But bless his heart, he's not alive anymore. He did pass away. I loved the guy for who he was, not for what I was paying him.
He probably didn't know how bad what he was selling to you was.
David Wolves was a great guy. I'll say his name because he's literally he's passed on. But he came to Kuwait to visit me. He came to Cambodia to visit me. He's a great guy, but he was a snake oil salesman.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing is a lot of financial advisors in the international space, if they don't have a high minimum, if they're not saying you have to have $1 million at least to work with me, then probably they're getting paid off of commissions. They're probably salespeople.
They were, darn right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of what you do is you coach, right?
Yeah. So I don't touch money. I don't sell products. I am literally a teacher. I teach you how to do it yourself, but with confidence.
Wow.
Unless you're in the boat like me. My father-in-law worked for New York Life forever and like different life insurance companies, right? And so when he passed, one of his best friends kind of took over as our financial advisor, and we see him every summer and we talk to him and still work with him, and we're kind of in a different financial boat because of that. We have that person kind of who's been a longtime best friend, who's a close family friend, trust. Right? So that we trust to be able to be
one
like.
Thing you have to be careful, Hannah, is that when you are living abroad, a U.S. based financial advisor may end up doing things with your portfolio that cause problems where you live, right? So depending on where you are, if you're in UAE, you're unlikely to run into problems, or Saudi, because there's no tax there. But if you were to move to Europe, for example, or to any place that has tax, then you can end up, your U.S. financial advisor, thinking that they're doing what's in your best interest, can actually do things that are damaging to you. When you're cross-border, it becomes harder because you don't have access to Roth IRAs. You don't have access to 401ks. You're not building up a social security income. And so the systems that they're used to, you're outside of those systems. Yeah. So it can, depending on where you live, it can create issues for you.
Yeah. And that's something that we've discussed as, we've moved from Kuwait to Texas to Pakistan, or back to Kuwait and then to Pakistan, right? So that's something that we've always kept in mind. My husband's explained our finances to us numerous times, and it's kind of just gone over my head. I can figure it out if I sat down and really read about it, but he most of the time just handles it and he's like, I'm doing this and this, and he tells me, and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds great.
It's good that you're talking about it though, Hannah, because people die. And then if he dies and you're left with it, you have to be able to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so it's important.
And that's what he says.
That was my mom's advice.
Yeah. It's important for everyone in the family to be aware of what exists. Even your children, as you get older, they need to know what kind of things you have, because you're going to die eventually. And who's going to be left to clean up the mess? That matters.
And that was the thing when my father-in-law passed. We knew about some of his financial things, but we didn't know about all of it, right? It wasn't bad stuff. It ended up benefiting us, but we were just oh, okay. There was more stuff going around than we anticipated, right?
Yeah.
I was very lucky because I am the daughter of 2 bankers. And my mom sat me down as a young kid. She had a big ledger. That was her budget book. She had grown up sort of accounting and then banking. She showed me, this is how much we have for clothes every month. This is how much we have for. And so I grew up with numbers, and that I was going to be a chartered accountant. And I became a teacher instead. Instead of math, I became a French teacher. But numbers are in my blood. And I've always tracked expenses, know my income, know what's,
You're an entrepreneur. So is
a monthly
Blair.
budget.
Yeah, you guys are amazing with that kind of money sense.
Financially independent at 49. So I think that knowing your numbers, knowing what is your income, what are your monthly expenses, what are you saving, and then how to grow those savings. That is key to getting to that point where you don't have to work for someone anymore. You can do your passion projects, your side hustles. You can do what you want with your life.
That's
and
a very
not
good
wait
point.
until you're
you don't
80
have to
or
stop
90.
Working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to stop working, but you can shift how you work because you have the freedom to choose, which is the choose your own finance idea.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You get to choose.
You're in for a long story later on, I think, because I made $12,000 my first 3 years in Honduras. If you're talking about like just at the end of the day, what's your income, not including the housing, the money that I had to spend versus and right the
very little. Yeah.
I'm not a big financial guy. My dad was telling me, Greg, you need to file taxes so that we can get your food stamps back in the States. Right. And then I didn't file taxes because I wasn't making any money. I went from school to school to school. When I reached Switzerland, they said, we're going to start filing. You need to start filing taxes. We're going to do it for you because you have to pay tax and start a retirement in Switzerland for 3 years. I was there. I have some money somewhere in Switzerland, and it's not one of those numbered accounts because the U.S. started trying to go after those people, the drug dealers. So they made this pact, and Switzerland's like, okay, we're not going to give you numbered anonymous accounts anymore. I was one of the first to have a named account, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, I don't know anything about finances. I was lucky because the school I'm at right now, I started putting away 50% of my income every month. For 10 years, I've been doing that. And it's with a financial institution already in the States. I'm not worried about it, but I was lucky enough to put things away, and I don't want to see it. I will at some point when I retire at 90 or 100 when
I
I'm
would
in a
suggest,
wheelchair.
though, Greg, that you look at it and you look at what you have. Take the time. If you need to hire someone to help you do it, that's fine. Or you just do it by yourself. You need to take the time and you need to see how the money's invested. Because
I'm probably going to talk to you after the show is what I'm getting at.
We can.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people like me, but not as lucky as me because I landed one of the top paying jobs in international education for the last 10 years. So I was able to put a lot of money away as a single and yet live the life of an international teacher, but being not financially independent. But I think that I need to reach out to someone like you.
You might already be fine, Greg.
But I don't know.
That's why
I'm fine enough. My independence is enough. I can go live with my dad for a year. And then I'm going over to another school. So I'm going to recruit for another school.
Hannah's getting this information at an age where I wish I had started saving because gosh knows where I would have been. 10, because I only started saving 12 years. In 12 years, I became financially independent. Yeah. So Hannah, you're getting this information really early.
When I started working for this company, JP, it's when you retired, basically, the age difference. So at 49, you retired and financially independent. I'm not that way. I might be, but I'm still not. I'll talk to Blair later. My point is people that are listening to us should be doing this at age 20 to 30 when they first get into education because you can put a little bit of money away. Andrew Callum can tell you that. Start early and it compounds. And I never knew about that stuff.
I worked my butt off in college and I graduated college debt free. Okay.
Amazing.
I paid all of my tuition. I think it was April and I graduated in May, right, of university. I did have a slew of grants because my parents were missionaries. So I got a crap ton of grants and scholarships, and I was working 2 part-time jobs. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week on top of like full-time university, right? I went into my life, so to speak, debt-free, completely,
Amazing.
100% debt-free. And right around that same time was when we were getting married. And I told Jake, I was like, I don't want to spend a crap ton of money on the wedding. The wedding is not what's important. What's important is our marriage. And I said, yes, I do want to have a party. I want to have our friends there and our family there, but I don't want to go broke. And so we kept it within means, and we kept, like, we didn't overspend, right? And then we went into our first international teaching job, and we were like you, Greg. We were in Brazil. We didn't make a lot of money, but Jake had his dad to be able to like help us figure out finances and stuff, because he worked in the finance industry in New York Life with life insurance and stuff, and like putting life insurance policies on us, and different things like that we would have thought about. And I feel like because I was lucky enough to be able to get a lot of grants, a lot of that, and graduate debt free, that's really set me apart, because even if there are times where we don't save as much as we want to, we're still like, we don't have that debt, right? That's weighing us down, because we don't do credit card debt. Like, that's not something that we've ever wanted to do. Debt is not a thing for us. Like, we've had a mortgage, but we don't now, and it's like, we've tried to make ourselves financially stable and financially like good from a young age. And I feel like having parents like you, JP, who are savvy into that stuff has helped.
It helps a lot.
My dad is not like a super finance, like he's a numbers guy. Like, you can give him numbers and he'll calculate all the different numbers in his head, and even into different currencies and stuff. But he didn't work in like the finance sector. But he still, taught me how to make myself debt free, right?
Amazing. What an amazing
And my
gift.
point is, for our listeners, this is why I invited Blair on, because when I met Blair through her AMA a couple Fridays ago, I heard a very similar story to mine, and the entrepreneur, the trust-based relationship that she has with her clients. But more so, it was, she will work with you where you are. She will meet you where you are and then help you come up with a plan so that you're not locked into working the rest of your life if you don't want to.
I want to take that point, JP, because like you said, like when you find out about how investing works, how compounding works, you think, oh my God, if I just started when I was 20, right? But the reality is that today's the best day to start. And it doesn't matter if you're 60, if you're 50, if you're 40. I didn't start investing until I was 35. Like, you don't have to start when you're 20. You don't have to start when you're 30. It's okay to start where you are now, because
make me feel
you
better.
can make it better. I want to point out also for you, Greg, one of the reasons I really want you to look at your accounts is that I had a client last week who she had an IRA in the US that she rolled over from one account to another, right? So it was a 401k or something. She rolled it into an IRA, and it was sitting in her Vanguard account. Vanguard's a great brokerage. Everything was great. And I said, let's just look at it. She's like, oh yeah, there it is. It's got $47,000 in it, like whatever. I'm like, no, click on it. Please click on it. She clicked on it, and it was in a money market fund, which is effectively a cash savings account. So that money was not invested. And it'd been sitting there. She told me she'd rolled it over about a year ago. So it was sitting there for a year. Over the past year, I ran the calculation, because it's such an easy fix. Just taking that money that's already in the brokerage account and putting it into an index fund rather than in a savings account. If she had done it a year ago, she would have made $12,000 this year. That's what the return was over the past year.
I'm going to have to pay for a session with you, because I'd become a client while I still have a little money, because my Vanguard account, I'm about to leave here and sign out in a month. And I'm not joking. I mean, this is good for the listeners to hear. I don't know about money, but I have a Vanguard account I've been putting money into for 10 years.
Fantastic.
And I don't know what's going on with it. So
I
I'm literally, And
Yeah,
you know,
let me
and the cool thing,
Blair will be able to step you through that.
that's my point. And that's why I'm excited about
Yeah.
this episode and hearing about finances, because now I'm a little bit more wary of what I can lose
Yeah.
and what I could
The opportunity cost. It's opportunity cost.
Right?
So when you talk about Hannah starting earlier, the earlier you start, if you don't start sooner, you lose opportunity cost. And that's that $12,000. It's not actually money that she lost. She has the same amount of money that she had when she put the money in there a year ago.
Opportunity.
But she lost the opportunity to earn $12,000. Now the markets go up and down, and I want to make this clear. You do not always earn money over short time periods. Over a 1 year or a 2 year period or a 5 year period, you might actually lose money if you invest it. But over a long time period, 20-year time period in history, we have never had a 20-year time period where the total market was at a loss. It doesn't exist. Even the Great Depression, it only took in real returns, I think it's something like 10 years to recovery. I can't remember the exact numbers, but like the Great Depression lasted a really long time. But because of inflation, it was a deflationary period, so things cost less. In order to recover the buying power of your money, it actually didn't take that long in the Great Depression. The great financial crisis, the 2000 bust of the dot-com bust to the great financial crisis in 2008, this is called the lost decade. It's a 10-year period where if you put $1 million in or $1,000 in 2000, in the year 2000, it would take until about 2010 to get back to the same amount of money. That's one of the worst investment periods in history. But it's only 10 years, and then the market took off immensely after that, and you would have made many times your money just a few years later, right? So investing is a long-term game. We cannot look at short-term returns. The market goes up and down every single day, but over longer time periods, the market goes up. And when we start investing, Greg, and this is why I want to point out, you're not too late. You're not investing until your retirement date. You're investing from now until you die.
I got 20 years.
Yeah.
I got 20 years.
You're going to live more than
before
20
I retire.
years, Greg.
No, but I mean retirement in 20 years. I'm going to be one of those guys that's.
But then you got another 30
years
years after that, right? Like maybe.
I don't think I do, actually. You said it before. There is the hurdles get more difficult as you get older. There are some new hurdles at when you approach 60. And I do want to plug this for our listeners. Next year, when I'm not working, my goal is, and Blair, you might help out with this financially as far as ideas. My goal is for next year to have a series of podcast episodes on the ITP in between our bi-weeklies. During the year, we do bi-weekly episodes. I would like to do episodes specifically about retirement. And I invite you right now. I'll invite you to come back on. I don't know where it's going to sit with my co-hosts and the commitment to be on these, because I'm not going to be working for a year. So I have time to work on the ITP. My goal for our listeners is to have a separate subset of episodes directly at retirement from international teaching. That's just an idea I have.
I have some other people I think might be good to come on the podcast too.
Like I said, we got to talk later about this, because I know it's a niche idea that people don't talk about enough. In our international circle, there's a lot of us that are like, well, money's not as important. I just love teaching. But the reality comes out, right? And your story proves it. There are instances where we get sick, when our families run into trouble, where we lose our jobs. There's no job security in international teaching. You can wake up and tomorrow your job is gone and you're on an airplane or not even paying for a ticket. But there's a lot of tragedy that does happen. We don't talk about financial. There's not enough out there about retirement. You prove that also. You had to go and look and learn for 2 or 3 years to get started even with your entrepreneurial idea. I'm one of those, and I'm the spitting image of the person that doesn't know crap about finances. I teach 4th grade math, 6th grade math at my max, okay? Anyway, that's enough plugging. I mean, I'm talking way too much during this episode, Blair, but that's the idea, and I lost where I'm at. I'm too excited about this. I'm enjoying.
Did you want to say something you said about the retirement podcast? Maybe you have an idea?
So I think I brought this up to you before, Greg, but you can also have people on there like what not to do. I think I've shared with you my friend, her idea of retirement is she's just going to bum around Latin America until she runs out of money and then jump off a cliff.
Yeah, maybe not that one.
and have her as like a what not to do. She's in her early 60s and teaching in Venezuela. She doesn't care if I say this online. She just got sick recently, and she did share with me. She's like, just in case like I die, I want you to know I do have a savings. Like I was making a joke when I said I was gonna bum around.
Oh, that's hilarious. Like, what is she, 18 in a gap year or something? Mom, Dad, I need $200 to get back.
So listeners can find your website, cyofinance.com.
Yeah. And I'm also really active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of free content there. I have an Instagram. I don't really use it, but I cross post everything there. So if you prefer Instagram, you can get some of my video content there. I also have Facebook. So I do post on Facebook, but not as much as I do on LinkedIn. If you want free advice, and these AMAs that you came to, JP, I think I'm going to start doing it monthly because I enjoy it. I enjoy helping people. And it's a way that it doesn't cost me much to just turn on the video.
Yeah, it's an hour.
And then I can answer people's real-time questions.
You're such a teacher.
Well, that's really inspirational because I'm starting to think I might do the same thing. So I'm going to join your AMA next Friday, although by the time we publish this, but maybe they'll look you up, Blair Hoover on LinkedIn, and they'll find an AMA.
What's an AMA? Yeah. Is that the American Medical Association?
Ask me anything.
I didn't know what that means.
It's
I
a
felt
Reddit.
stupid,
I think it's a Reddit term.
Thing.
It's from Reddit. Yeah.
I just found Reddit like a week ago, so I don't know.
It's just a Q&A, but it's like way more hip to say.
Yeah, it's a Q&A. Ask me anything about finance or ask me about anything. Yeah. The ending of our podcast, we do like to ask you 2 questions. Would you do us the benefit of hearing a police story in your background? I don't know if you've ever had a police or a customs story.
That you can share.
That you could share.
Well, there's a few. Okay. I'll tell you this one because I think it's so funny. We were backpacking in Kazakhstan on in a school holiday trip. Kazakhstan's a great place to go backpacking because no one speaks English. Everyone speaks Kazakh and Russian. And so once you get outside of the cities, like it's really adventurous. So we were hiking up a hill to go see, because it was supposed to be snow at the top of this mountain, just outside of the city of Almaty. And we got picked up by a van full of people. They were drinking, right? It was Sunday afternoon and they were going up to a picnic. They're like, come with us, come with us. So we ended up on this like escapade with this van of people. And there's very little common language between us. One of the people speaks little English, right? So we're having this like really weird experience where we stop on the side of the road and there's a clown dancing on the side of the road. We pull over and there's just this family is barbecuing, like a grandma, a mom, and like a kid are barbecuing. And the woman just had a clown costume in her trunk and she put it on because they're drunk, right? Because it's Kazakhstan. That's what you do. Just invited us to like barbecue with them. And then we end up going to a restaurant and we kind of eat and more drinking. And I'm not a big drinker myself. Like I drink a little, but I'm not a big drinker.
You like onions.
I like onions, yeah. It's Kazakhstan, right? Well, then we end up in this van going the wrong direction. We go down the mountain. So we spent the whole day with this group of people and they're laughing and joking and they're friendly and it feels okay. And I'm with my partner. I'm not a single solo female traveler at this point. But we end up going into the middle of nowhere suburb and it's like midnight, right? It's getting late and we end up in an office. And it turns out, this is where we finally figure it out. This is a work trip. The guy who owns the small graphic design company has required his employees to come out on a picnic for the entire day. Like we were together like 7 hours. Like it was a long time, right? And so they're all like trying to go home, right? And so we end up, it's the owner of this company who is like really like over the top drunk, his driver who is also a little bit drunk, and us. Right. And we're like trying to get like, how can we get out of here? How can we get a taxi? Eventually we got a taxi call and we did eventually get home safely. But on the way to that office, while we're coming down off the mountain, we had to stop and get gas. Right. So of course, everyone jumps out of the car and starts dancing around the car because everyone is drunk, because it's, there's like 10 office workers who are just trying to get through the day with their boss that they don't actually want to be there.
Was she still wearing the clown costume when you guys went around the car?
She wasn't part of our group. That was a random
Oh, it's a
stranger.
different group. I was
a
picturing
random
clown
stranger.
driving the clown car.
So when we pull
Awesome.
out of the gas station, the cops see us and they pull us over and they demand a bribe. And of course, we don't know what's going on. So we just end up having to give the cops this money because everyone, including the driver, is drunk. And that's how you get out of a DUI in Kazakhstan. Yeah. So that's my police story. It's a good one, right?
It is a good one. I can't believe that grandma had a clown. She is one of my people. She has a clown costume in her trunk.
I'm telling you,
I gotta
if
start
you get
traveling
a
with a
chance
clown
to
costume.
teach in Kazakhstan, Kazakh people are the most amazing.
I've heard of Almaty.
wonderful people.
You said Almaty. I was like, I've seen Almaty International School hiring.
Yeah,
So there you
Almaty
go.
is fantastic. I haven't been up to, I think is it Astana is the capital where there's a lot of teaching jobs there. I have a friend that's there though, but I will
think
tell
I'm
you,
going to be teaching there soon. I looked at
Kazakhstan
them
sounds like your
recently. I looked at them through what's the group of schools? QSI. I looked at the QSI school, and I think they have one in Almaty, if not in Almaty, somewhere.
it's an
close.
up and coming teaching destination. Like they're doing a lot of education reforms.
I think
They're
it's
bringing in-
fantastic, and my niece will be out there, I'm sure, at some point real soon. She speaks Russian, but wow. Second question for you as a guest. You've traveled a lot. I don't know how many countries you've been in, but with the exception of anything with a heartbeat, meaning not your partner, not your husband, not your daughter, no one, okay? No cow's milk. What are 3 things that you take with you country to country?
Okay, I'm going to go with what I take backpacking because that's easier than country to country because I've only really moved twice, right? And let's be honest, France, pretty easy. I mean, there's lots of things hard about France, but like culturally, like it's not that hard. And UAE is really not that hard. What do I take with me when I'm traveling? Well, of course, passport, phone, and debit card, credit card. Like that's like a given, right? But I love taking, you know, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have a towel I always travel with.
Don't forget 42 and don't forget your towel.
Yes. So the towel that I use is called a kukoi. It is from East Africa. It's like from Tanzania kind of area. And it's like a really thinly woven cotton sarong. And the men wear it there. Sometimes people call them Turkish towels. There's like a Turkish version. It's a little bit different. But it folds up really small. It's just big enough to act like a sheet or a beach towel if you need to. It's cotton, so it's absorbent. So you use it like a towel. But you can also wear it as a scarf. You can use it like a picnic blanket. You can use it as a sarong. Like it's so useful.
Multifunctional.
Yeah.
Douglas Adams must have been talking about the Turkish towel then at some point. What's it called again?
It's called a kukoi.
Kukoi.
You can get it in Kenya. You can get it in Tanzania. I bought the one that I use now. I bought in Uganda, but it's not actually from Uganda. So that's like a great travel thing, right? Have to have that, right? Then when we were traveling, we wore chacos. You know the sandals, chacos.
Sandals.
Yes, the
For an
best
entire
ever.
year. For an entire year, we wore chacos. We did everything in those. So like that's a really good travel shoe. I'm kind of into barefoot shoes now, so I probably would pick differently, but at the time. And then the other thing was coconut oil because you can use it for so many things. So you can put it in your hair, like you can put it in your hair to keep your hair not being cracked or dry or whatever. You can use it on your skin like moisturizer. You can use it on your lips. You can cook with it in a pinch, although by the time you have it all over your body, you don't really like the smell anymore. But coconut oil is really useful too. So we always traveled with coconut oil when we were in the middle of nowhere.
That's why I love this question. That's so
I also
perfect.
got an
You have a number
IUD,
4?
ladies. Getting an IUD so you don't have a period when you travel for a year, brilliant. Makes a huge difference. Yeah.
I didn't expect that. That's why I love this question more than anything is that every individual guest has such wonderful police stories and that customs or they have such wonderful 3 items.
When you're in the middle of nowhere, how do you get a pad or a tampon? You don't.
I hear you. Even if you're in the middle of the city in some countries, they don't believe in tampons and you get pads and you're not going to use pads. Honduras, Central America, Catholic, they're not going to use insertable things. Right?
So when I either used a Diva cup when I was traveling, like a little silicone cup, but then when we decided to do the year of travel, I just bit the bullet and went and got an IUD, get pain relief before you go get that inserted, by the way, because they won't give it to you, but it is painful.
That is great travel advice for women.
Yeah.
If you're going to go on a year tour around the world, get an IUD. That's amazing.
Yeah.
They heard it here.
I thought IUD was, I thought that was like the bladder infection. What isn't that?
No, that's UTI.
Oh.
So IUD,
I got those letters confused.
And there's two types. There's a hormonal type where you don't have a period at all. That's the one I got. Then there's the one that's made with like a copper coil where you still have your periods. I would not recommend that one because then it kind of defeats the purpose.
What a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
I tell you. Blair, you're not just a science teacher, but you're some financial guru, and it's amazing to have you on this show.
I've really enjoyed talking to all of you. This has been fantastic.
Well, we'll do a quick run around here. Hannah, final thoughts?
It's not too early and it's not too late to start saving for your future. So, that's something to think about. Retirement, especially as a teacher abroad, when there's not options. Thank you so much for all the information that you've shared with us. It's been so helpful.
Greg, final thoughts?
I just have the onion out in the brain. I keep thinking I'm going to cook some onions tonight. We started with onions. It was sprinkled throughout the whole show. In order, listeners, to make sure you can always get an onion, make sure that you start now. Start today. It's not how old you are. It's start now. That's great advice. Thank you, Blair, for all your stories. And I will be talking with you after the show.
Excellent.
And Blair, final thoughts for our listeners.
I just want to say, and this one's for you, Greg, it's scarier if you don't look. Like the unknown is so much scarier than the known. So when you look, like JP said, when you track, when you look, when you open the account and you see what you have, it's actually less scary than when you're putting it off and you're not looking. So like Hannah said, start now. But like the first step is to just look and see what the situation is. And I would encourage everyone to, because you can do that now. You don't need someone to help you. You can track down those accounts in whatever country it are.
And figure out the passwords.
Yeah, you can figure out the passwords. You can look at your bank statements and see how much you're spending. Like the data exists. You just have to open it up and look at it. And often that's the hardest part. Like we know this with kids too when they're learning, right? Like the starting is the hardest part, right? Like actually once you start doing it, it's not that bad. But like just getting over the hump of looking and knowing what you're dealing with, that's where I would start.
It's like taking the plunge into international teaching, right? It seems scary at first, and then you do it, and it's
and then it's old hat. It's just old hat. I want to thank Blair Hoover from Choose Your Own Finance and the Simplify group as well. Check out Simplify on, is it Facebook? You said? Yeah, on Facebook. Blair, thank you so much for coming on. I want to thank Greg, our single guy, author of 3 books now. Please check him out on Amazon.com, Gregory Lemoyne.
Yeah, stay for the show.
I want to thank Hannah, our co-hostess with the mostest from the basement in Iowa, and soon to be published author as well. More on that later.
Ooh.
So thank you so much, everybody. And I'm Jacqueline from JP Mint Consulting, and this has been a wonderful episode on everything. All
brought to you by onions.
Clowns on the side of the
IUDs and clowns.